And he looks at me. And he says, You have taught us so much, Mr. Cage. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And you know what I tell him? What did you say? I said, that ain't no wisdom, bud. That's perspective.
Strange. That is not how I remember it.
Oh, yeah. I was just telling these guys how we saved all the realms. Together.
Oh. All right, look. I may have taken one or two creative liberties.
Behold, the human female you rescued from the pits of spikes.
Seriously.
2 or 3 creative liberties.
Oh my
Yeah, I gotta
god.
give it to you.
Johnny Cage is the worst
Go
part of
running
this
back
movie.
to Hollywood, first chance you got.
I made a promise to these guys. Hollywood can wait. Oh, shit. Tell me there's not another tournament.
No. Outworld has been defeated. Earthrealm has been saved.
So, what the fuck are you doing here?
We have lost far too many of our champions. It's time to bring them home. Someone order a necromancer? Might look like Voldemort's nutsack, but trust me, we're gonna need this fucker.
Voldemort?
G'day, Blondie. Long time no see.
You ready for your next lesson?
For the glory of Johnny fucking Cage.
Let's go get our friends. Then we kill Kano.
Okay, good.
Breathalyzing. What's up, Stroud? How you doing? So for the Insta360 and camera, I deleted my footage and it won't delete, and you said that was because of a failing SD card. Is there any fixes to this without getting a new SD card? What's up, old school? Things are good. Just chilling, man. Just finished Mortal Kombat 2. It was okay. How's your night going? What up, edits? How you doing?
Card reader. Mac. Disk utility. Open disk utility. Select the card. Click Erase and choose exFAT format. Windows. Disk part. Open command prompt as...
How about, first of all, how do I even know if that's the real issue with the camera? Ronaldo?
To confirm if the SD card is actually...
I don't know anything about Ronaldo. I don't play Roblox. Got Beam NG and I got a dab pen. And yeah, no work tomorrow. Sounds good, man. Cheers to that. And happy Father's Day to anyone who's a father. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Slept most of the day. And I'm well refreshed for the night. Except for the loud assholes outside. Leather accent chair over there. What is the cost of a leather accent chair in Portland, Oregon? Chelino Sanchez?
The cost of a leather accent chair in Portland, Oregon ranges anywhere from $300 to $2,500 plus, depending on the type of leather, style, and whether you shop at budget-friendly spots or high-end local boutiques.
So it says a chair like that could cost anywhere from $300 to $2,500. Were you apologizing for a cram? He was a cartel affiliated singer. He should read as we get paid sometime in Oregon. Chalino Sanchez meme video. I'll look up the meme video, see if I can find it. He reads a note and sort of cries and starts singing. Yeah, there's a pretty big Latin population here. He's a cartel affiliated singer. Damn. My father was thinking at 9 a.m. Okay. Oh yeah, it's 1 a.m. 1:50 a.m. here. Wonder if you've ever thought about whether memories fade because they're becoming less real or because they're slowly becoming part of you and no longer need to be remembered. Well, with memories, your brain changes like every 7 years or something like that. What makes memories fade? Is it because your brain every 7 years transforms into the next stage or something?
No, your brain doesn't transform or completely replace itself every 7 years. That is a common myth, likely confused with the old and also inaccurate idea that every cell in your body replaces itself on that timeline.
Hey asshole, then tell me the truth.
The truth is, your brain isn't rewriting its entire biology every 7 years. That's a myth. Your brain cells are meant to last your whole life, but the connections between them constantly shift. When you stop revisiting a memory, those fickle pathways naturally weaken and decay. At the same time, a flood of new daily experiences constantly crowds out, overlaps, and replaces the older data so your brain can run efficiently. It isn't a sudden transformation. It's just continuous, aggressive.
What do you mean replaces older data? Like, so you're saying we can't access certain memories at some point?
Exactly. When I say your brain replaces data, I mean it overwrites the access paths to those older memories. Think of your brain like a hard drive that is constantly running out of space. It doesn't necessarily...
Yeah, I live right by a bar. That's why there's loud people on Friday and Saturdays right outside my window. Do you think in 1,000, 10,000 years people will believe in Mr. Beast the way we believe in Jesus? No, I don't think that. Do you know who the Feds is? No, I don't know that either. Hope everyone's doing well tonight, even the weirdos in the chat. Like that one guy. Dr. Bob. Definitely not a doctor. Well, opposite of a doctor.
Like 50 cops there.
This is the mother of 19-year-old Austin Nina. Mere moments before this interview, Nina had to watch as her son not only killed two innocent people, but devoured them.
The teenager killed a husband and wife, and the man's...
I don't know how to do this. My son, he's taken off. It seems like he's a little delusional.
For months, Austin had been showing signs of slowly losing himself.
Austin told the devil talked to him like 6 months ago.
What's up,
Louise? Religious stuff lately. I'm really reading a lot of stuff.
And two people now dead and one fighting for his life. Austin's...
Has anyone else seen the new Mortal Kombat movie? And did anyone like it? Or did everyone else think it was kind of lame? Like me.
It's around 10 p.m. on August 15, 2016. Beautiful night in Martin County, Florida.
I don't trust any of those organizations. Hello, hello, and hello. And hello.
About her son. After days of disturbing behavior, the 19-year-old stormed out of a family meal at Duffy's Sports Grill about an hour earlier and hasn't been seen since. Worried for his safety, Nina calls 911, but little does she know it's far too late. Because as she soon discovers, It's not Austin's safety.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on some movies lately, especially since they got a couple of good new ones. Well, I got a couple of new ones that I've been having to watch just to see how much they are fucked up or not. Bye, 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 bye. Fucking... Yeah, the new Mortal Kombat, I guess it was okay in some ways, but had a lot of weird things I didn't like.
People in white shorts, and you had a blue polo on and a red hat. Make America great again. And he was out to dinner with his dad today, and he took off. And we just, you know, he was with his sister, and he says, you know, he feels immortal and like a superhero. So I don't know what's going on with him.
Nina has every reason to be concerned, because just half an hour earlier, what's going on with Austin is one of the worst and strangest crimes in the state's history. And when it comes to Florida, that's saying something. Jeff Fisher is home in bed when he hears a blood-curdling scream coming from his neighbors across the street. He looks out the window, only to see a frantic-eyed Austin Haroof viciously attacking Michelle Stevens, a woman he has absolutely no connection to. Jeff runs to her rescue and finds both Michelle and her husband John Stevens gravely wounded, and Austin offering a chilling warning.
He turned and looked at me and said, "You want no part of this, you want no part of me, one of the two." And then from his right hand, swung.
But it's too late. Austin attacks him with a knife, inflicting serious life-threatening wounds. Jeff still manages to flee to his home and call police, but by now multiple calls are flooding in. And as police rush to Southeast Kokomo Lane, they stumble into a scene straight out of The Walking Dead. Austin, shirtless, barefoot, and totally detached from reality, sits on top of John, growling like an animal, biting him. Officers' commands are ignored, and pepper spray and tasers have little effect. In the end, it takes multiple officers and a canine unit to take Austin into custody.
Wow.
And as he's finally pulled away,
That's crazy, man.
he makes a chilling claim. "Help me," he tells a sergeant. "I ate something bad." When the sergeant asks what, he coldly replies, "Humans." John Stevens is pronounced dead at the scene, and Michelle
This dude ate people?
dies at the hospital a short time later, but Jeff Fisher miraculously survives
Thanks, man. How you doing, Red Box?
his severe injuries. Austin's admitted to the ICU, where he's heavily sedated and treated for extensive injuries of his own, including dog bites from canines. Now, with an entire state shocked by an inexplicable crime, everyone wants to know one thing: why? Only Austin knows. But as police wait to speak with him, and doctors wait for the results of a toxicology test, detectives speak with his devastated parents Nina and Wade to fill in the pieces of this bizarre and shocking crime.
My name is Eugene Marqueta. I'm not sure if I'm practically handling the investigation. He's from the State Attorney's Office for Hendricks. Okay. I know it's a terrible situation, but I want to ask you some questions about the night and the incident happened. When was the last time you saw him?
Shit sleep schedule. Yeah. Yeah, I got a shit sleep schedule too. I do cocaine. Is that Roxo in the chat? I do cocaine.
8:20? Okay, where did you see him?
That's when I dropped him off at Duffy's.
You dropped him off at Duffy's? Okay. Who did you drop him off with?
I just dropped him off in front of the door and he walked in.
What was he wearing when you dropped him off?
Some white shorts and a blue polo shirt.
Okay. That's when you dropped him off? Okay. Was he at Duffy's already? Or?
I was at home.
Dr. Roxo! The fucking Roxo! I took cocaine! I hear it's somebody's birthday!
Boot party.
It's okay.
Well, I guess I would like to learn about the cannibal killer more, but they had to make this video so slow and boring, it's unwatchable.
Hansen, and this is the Victor Davis Hansen in his own word show. We're at the Daily Signal. You can pick us up there at the Daily Signal. We have a YouTube presence, VD Hansen at X, and you can get everything at Victor Hansen, HANSON, all one word.com, where our podcast, both the 4 I do a day for the Daily Signal, the shorts, and then our weekly ones we do with Sammy Wink and Jack Fowler. Today I'm doing one of our interviews solo, and my guest, I think you all know him, Raymond Ibrahim, and he's going to talk about the swords, the 2 swords of Christ. And I should say before we start, Ray, how long have we known each other? 30? What year did you enroll in Cal State Fresno?
Yeah, we've known each other. I know I met you in 1998.
That was your first year at Cal State?
No, I think I was there in 97, but I think the first semester, like the second semester is when we met. Yes. I had several classes with you. So that would put us 2026. That's 18 years. I mean, I'm sorry,
28 years. Ray was a master's student in Greek and Latin at Cal State Fresno when I met him, and he wrote his thesis with me. And then you came to prominence with was the Al-Qaeda reading your first book?
Yeah, my first book came out in 2005, not soon thereafter. Not soon after leaving college, I was at the Library of Congress working there.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that in a couple of minutes? How did you find this and what was it?
Sure, so I was at the Library of Congress working in the Arabic division with
And you were doing graduate school at that time?
I had just graduated from Fresno, and I went on to Georgetown University. I was at the Center of Contemporary Arab Studies. And, I didn't understand the political dimension of all that at the time. And but I did well in grades. I got A's. And
you're having tooth pain. One thing you can do for tooth pain is, I think it's like salt water. If you do it like warm salt water, if you like splash it around in your mouth, I think that's supposed to relieve pain. You want to see a good video of potential illegal immigrant rapist tried fleeing the scene in Leeds. He bloody jumped in the canal. They brought the armed police helicopter, fire brigade, everything. The video is in the News Now Yorkshire. News Now Yorkshire is my friend. News Now Yorkshire. Okay, check it out.
Whatnot, and I landed an internship.
Good morning. How you doing, Chris?
A full-time job, and then sometime around 2005, I came across writings by Osama bin Laden and Ayman Zawahiri, the Al-Qaeda leaders.
How did you find it? Where did you find it?
In the Library of Congress, right where I worked, because as only employees.
Tell me how you did. Where was it? What was it doing?
Only employees have access to the stacks, and these are humongous stacks, of course, Library of Congress, and there's tons of bins. And as part of my cataloging, that was part of my job, but I would also peruse through books anyway, just for fun. And I came across these writings by Osama bin Laden, which were in Arabic. I investigated it and found out that even though the media...
Happy birthday, man. What you gonna do to celebrate? And happy Father's Day, too.
About these, and then as you recall, I mentioned it to you, and you connected me with your agent, literary representative. And,
yes, and then Glenn Hartley published it with Doubleday.
With Doubleday. We got a book deal with Doubleday, and it came out in 2007.
Yeah, I think I wrote the preface to our introduction. And what was
what's going on here? Got police, fire engine, armed response, everyone's here.
Happy Born Day.
So man just jumped off the balcony into the water here. They've got police, fire and rescue. Apparently he's got a knife on him.
Dumbass.
There is armed police over there. And there's the guy.
He's just chilling in the water. What the fuck? Going 2000. Hell yeah, man. Hope you have a good meal. Today's Sunday, so I'm probably gonna go to Chick-fil-A today because they got a they got a deal going on where it's like if you spend $10, you can get like a $10 chicken sandwich thing for free. So that's what I like doing on Sunday.
Home response on the balcony too.
Texas Roadhouse? Damn, bro. Sounds fire. Texas Roadhouse.
What were the circumstances? He wrote it and someone in Egypt had published it and the library got a hold of it?
Yeah, there was some kinds of...
I've never been there. I'm pretty sure we don't have that here.
Osama had written them in the 80s, and it was part of the Mujahideen Afghanistan base that he was part of. But then later writings from him...
Damn. Shit looks pretty appetizing.
One part would be Osama bin Laden, one would be Ayman Zawahiri, one would be people no one even recognizes. And what I just found significant is that up until then, the messages that we were being fed by the media from Osama bin Laden was the reciprocal treatment business, which is that we're attacking you because you attacked us, you started it, we're innocent, you're the attackers, you know, the whole 9 yards, the grievance mantra. But what was significant about the writings that I found, which were being shared only with Arab speakers and Muslims, was they actually...
Well, the game's called Heretic plus Hexen, but this particular one's called Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. So I guess there's a bunch of games on here. You got Heretic, Hexen, Death Kings of the Dark Citadel. And you got Heretic, Faith Renewed. So these ones are all from 1994, 95, 96. And then they got the two new ones, Heretic, Faith Renewed, and Hexen, Vestiges of Grandeur. So I guess these are the new ones I haven't tried yet. Let's try Faith Renewed.
Of the Christian world and the...
What's up, Greens? Good morning. Happy Father's Day. What's up, Kiwa? I'm good. All is good in the hood.
Agree. And you still have relatives in Egypt, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
The next book that after it was Crucified Again, which the subtitle is Exposing Islam's New War on Christians, and that is the one that deals with the contemporary modern day Muslim persecution of Christians, which the media completely ignores, and which, as you indicate, I have a personal interest to due to my own ethnic background, being Coptic and whatnot, and my own familial contacts. So that was that book. And then later on, actually, I started gravitating back towards my academic interests from our days. And yes. I think the next most popular, the most popular book at that point was Sword and Scimitar, 14 Centuries of War Between Islam and the West, which came out in 2018. And that was really a continuation of my master's thesis, which I wrote under your direction. Chapter 1 was the Battle of Yarmouk, which was my master's thesis, but I reworked it. And also, I was thinking the other day, one of the decisive battles in Sword and Scimitars is the Battle of Manzikert, and that reminds me of how our mutual friend James and I actually did a presentation on that battle in one of your classes.
Yes, Ray is referring to a student that I had, and he was a colleague of Ray, a Greek and Latin student, and I think in many ways he was a certified genius as far as languages go. He was absolutely a brilliant student. Very eccentric, loner, I'm being euphemistic, and then he went to graduate school at Penn State, and then I lost track of James. That was too bad, because he was a very interesting guy, and he was absolutely brilliant, but you've kept up with him, haven't you?
Yeah. We haven't probably spoken in a year, but I have his contact info, and I'll probably be in touch with him soon. But yeah, the way you described him is very apt, and you'll be pleased to know he hasn't changed in any significant way.
Except age, we're all getting older. So so let's go to the new book title, and give me a brief. All of our readers want to have a brief, just what's it about.
Sure, Victor. So it's called The Two Swords of Christ, and the subtitle is The Five Centuries of War Between Islam and the Warrior Monks of Christendom. And here it is, and it's basically. So, I just mentioned Sword and Scimitar, where I looked at the long war between the West and Islam via...
It's so easy to get lost in these games. Not doing much for Father's Day. Hope you sleep well, Chris. Yeah, there's a loud nightlife out there. They usually leave around 2 a.m., which is it's 2:14 p.m. now, so hopefully they get their fucking Ubers and get the fuck out of here. Get your fucking Uber. What's up, Erica? Or Eric, I mean. Not much, just about to change the game. This one kind of sucks. I get stuck in this one. I don't know. Try to find a good game. This game's kind of good. It's called Mullet Mad Jack, but it's pretty repetitive and boring too. Could play Resident Evil 2. Could try Little Nightmares 2. I got stuck in Little Nightmares earlier. The first one. Yeah, I'm not doing too much for Father's Day, but I'm gonna go and buy my dad a little gift, I guess. Still protesting? Probably. I just don't keep up with the protests that much. Missed you too, Lean. What's up, Bird Lover? Thanks for the gift. Play your viewers. Or no? What do you mean? Play them what? I'm good. I'm okay.
Decisive battles, right? So the Battle of Yarmouk, Manzikert, as I mentioned. And then my the other book between Sword and Scimitar and this, Defenders of the West, I looked at what I call...
I haven't yet. Thanks, Ann Carter. Tell my neighbors to shut fuck. Shut the hell up. It's about time for them to pipe down, though. Man, this chair is fucking uncomfortable. God damn. I gotta get a new chair. Yeah, I haven't played, I mean, some people have asked to play Forza with me, but I don't know, I'm mostly a solo gamer, and it's hard to be on game, like, you know. I don't have a headset right now. My brother bought me a headset last year, but it didn't work. And, yeah, I haven't played many multiplayer, too many multiplayer games lately.
Called decisive men. So Western warriors who fought against Islam. Most people don't have any idea about these guys, or they don't understand how their actual significance. So anyway, one book was about decisive battles. One was about decisive men. And this book is kind of in between. It's really a long history, and it came out to be really a history mostly of the Crusades, because I'm writing about the Templars and the Hospitallers, the two primary military orders. And if you're going to talk about them, you're obviously going to talk about the Crusades, because they were literally the backbone of the Crusades. But it also spills past the Crusades, as you know, the Knights of St. John in Rhodes, and then later in Malta. So really, the book covers from right at the end of the First Crusade, where the Holy Land is not...
Oh, yeah. Not really. At the 10 o'clock, $1. Yeah, well, everything helps. Appreciate it all. This game seems cool, but yeah, I'd like to beat it, but I got stuck every time I play this game.
Is now secured under Crusader rule all the way until the Siege of Malta in 1565. I actually go further. I go until Napoleon basically conquers Malta and evicts the Knights of the Hospital, the Hospitallers. So it's a long history. And I think it's very eye-opening because, like Defenders of the West, it truly underscores heroism. And the reason for the title is kind of like a two-pronged pun, because it's called the Two Swords of Christ, because I'm referencing the verse in Luke where Christ tells his disciples, "Sell your garments and buy a sword," and they say, "Look, Lord, here are two swords," and he says, "That's enough." Now that has been allegorized into absolute meaninglessness today by Christians. It just means nothing really. But for a lot of pre-modern and especially medieval Christians, and I quote a lot of them, what it meant is that Christ was saying there's two forms of swords. One, to fight spiritual forces, which modern day Christians I think will agree with, but the other was to fight secular, physical, corporeal forces, evil humans, right? And so that's how it was preached, and that's what gave rise, and that's what actuated the military orders. Because on the one hand, it's ironic when you look at them, the way they come out in the book, they're so immensely pious. They're essentially monks, but on the other hand, they're so immensely ferocious and militant. So it's kind of a strange fusion that occurred back in that era, and one which, of course, to modern day Christians is wholly anachronistic, if not.
This game's crazy. I'd like to beat it eventually. Do I ever just... Oh yeah, of course. I sat in silence earlier. Someone's smoking some dank weed out my window. Making me fiend. Oh yeah, that's my old neighbor. Yeah, he got kicked out shortly after I. So that was like that was a couple of years ago, and my apartment got flooded, and then they moved me to like a temporary apartment like down the hall, and then my neighbor across the hall from me was like a complete tweaker, and like he had fucking the biggest roach infestation I've ever fucking seen. And like the roaches from his apartment would come into my apartment, and then I was just like fucking killing roaches all the time. It's fucking insane. But yeah, he eventually got kicked out pretty quick. But I still had to stay in that apartment for a minute until my new apartment got fixed. So that was a lame time for sure. Fucking creepy ass neighbors. Little Big Planet. I never owned it, but I tried it a couple of times. Rip a big dabber. Nice. Bruh. Yeah, I had to show that. And that's still like one of my most viewed videos. Like, goddamn. Had to expose this fucking building. Luckily I haven't dealt with that anymore. Like I don't have any shitty neighbors like that right now. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of this whole build. Like the neighborhood I stay in is like the worst neighborhood as far as like in the city. There's like the most overdoses outside, and this building has a lot of tweakers and shit. One of my neighbors got arrested like a month ago for like dealing drugs out of the building and shit. So, you know, trying to move. Mac Dame. What do you do for a living? Get money. How about you? Shiv.
It's not blasphemous, I'm sure, but that's why I think it's very interesting to look at the theological underpinnings, and it goes all the way back to St. Augustine, just war theory. But I also called it the two swords of Christ because I realized quickly that these two military orders were really the ascendant ones, the Templars and the Hospitallers. So my argument is by really believing in the concept of the two swords of Christ, that there's a war against spiritual and physical, they themselves became the two swords of Christ. So as you can see, the pommels, one of the pommels of the two swords is the Templars and one's the Hospitallers. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It's just a long history.
What?
We just get money. Just probably. I looked it up. I found some places recently. Pretty much whatever I can afford. So there's a couple of different options for me in different parts of town that are less ghetto. I guess I'll move out of downtown. Maybe I'll move to across the river.
Why don't tell everybody, I think, is curious, make the distinction in the size of the orders chronologically. Do they overlap? Which was first? Which was more prominent? Which was what separates them both in faith or actual performance on the battlefield?
I like this game, but I'm always fucking confused. I'm always lost in the game. I'm pretty sure I got past this part earlier. Now I don't remember how I did it. Frustrating ass game. I'm gonna switch it. Switching it up. Yeah. I gotta make a move. Well, I actually have a meeting with my apartment manager on Monday. So I'm going to get to talk to them about when my lease is up, and then I'll figure out if this other apartment messages me back, if I'm able to move there. So we'll see. And then I can finally get some new fresh breath of air in a new place.
Field or legacy.
Sure. Well, so the Hospitallers are older but kind of newer, so it's hard to explain. But they existed as an order first, and what they were was they were just it was a hospice for pilgrims traveling from Europe to the Holy Land, and they needed obviously someone there, a Christian, to provide them with some relief, a place to live, a place to sleep, and oftentimes medical aid. So it was a hospice formed around the Holy Sepulchre, the Church of the Holy, where of course the primary destination for pilgrims, but they were not militant at all. So it's right around maybe 260s or 270 is when this hospital by an Amalfi Italian merchant group actually they laid the foundations of it back then. And so the first military group is really the Templars.
Anybody watch the new Toy Story yet? Excuse me. I don't know if this is gonna load. Fat bags is going to got white buns, and I'm about to go get licked. Yes, I'm about to get licked. I got myself a shorty. That sounds lit. Gonna take my kid to see it in the drive. Oh, nice. Sounds chill. When did it come out? On the 19th, I think, if I remember right. GTA 6, yeah, finally. New Digital Circus. Ah, okay. Haven't heard of that one. Seems like there's a lot of movies out right now. I keep hearing about Backrooms and Obsession, and they got Masters of the Universe. I just finished Mortal Kombat 2. That was okay. Well, apparently I already started a game in this one. I feel like I should restart this, though. See how far I am. I've been to chapter 2, that's all. So I might as well just restart, so I can get a fresh perspective. Rogerio Scalab. No, I didn't watch Masters of the Universe yet. PC, but my friend will hopefully buy it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm not gonna pre-order GTA. I'm just gonna buy it when it comes out.
Dostoevsky himself would carry the trauma of this experience for the rest of his life, returning to it obsessively. Executed their sentences. The entire execution had been a carefully orchestrated piece of psychological torture, designed to break the prisoner's spirits while demonstrating the sovereign's absolute power over life and death. One prisoner, Nikolai Grigoriev, lost his sanity on the spot, never to recover. Dostoevsky himself would carry the trauma of this experience for the rest of his life, returning to it obsessively in his fiction as a means of exploring the boundaries of human endurance and the mysteries of providence. His actual sentence proved harsh enough: 4 years of hard labor in a Siberian prison camp, followed by an indefinite term of military service. On Christmas Eve, 1849, he began the long journey eastward, travelling in chains through the Russian winter. The journey itself lasted weeks, a prolonged transition from his former life as a Petersburg intellectual to his new existence as a convict. Along the way, in the town of Tobolsk, he received a visit from the wives of the Decembrists, aristocratic women who had followed their husbands into Siberian exile.
Bethesda is the people who made Skyrim and Elder Scrolls series and Fallout games.
Until its pages nearly disintegrated. The prison camp at Omsk represented a complete inversion of everything Dostoevsky had known. Here, aristocratic political prisoners mixed with common criminals, murderers.
I know they announced something, like one of the Bethesda creators announced something a couple of years ago, and then he regretted announcing it, and he was like, I regret even mentioning that sequel because it's taken us so long to create. So yeah, it's gonna be a while, but I hope they use AI. I hope they start using AI more to make games come out faster. Wish we could get a Red Dead 3. Probably take them another 10 years. I mean, they're probably definitely working on it right now. But yeah, guess we gotta. Sucks how long we have to wait for games these days. Should have a new game every fucking year.
And thieves. The work was backbreaking, the conditions brutal, the punishments savage. Yet Dostoevsky would later describe this period as crucial to his development as both artist and thinker. Stripped of his class privileges and intellectual pretensions, he encountered the Russian people in their rawest form. He discovered that
I saw that shit coming too.
Prisoners, despite their crimes, possessed a moral depth.
One game that they had talked about, they wanted to make a Lord of the Rings game that is similar to Hogwarts Legacy. I think that one sounds like it would be cool. Red Dead 5 by now. I know, right? If there's 5 Red Deads, damn. They might as well just rush the fucking games, if you ask me. Because, they're just taking way too long. It's crazy.
And spiritual intensity that exceeded anything he had encountered in Petersburg salons. This experience fundamentally altered his understanding of human nature. The Enlightenment view of man as essentially rational, capable of organizing society according to scientific principles, could not account for what he witnessed in Omsk. The prisoners were capable of extraordinary cruelty and extraordinary kindness, often within the same hour. They could endure unimaginable suffering while maintaining an inner freedom that no chains could bind. They believed in God and committed terrible sins, sometimes simultaneously. They defied every attempt at systematic explanation. One incident particularly struck him. On Easter Sunday, the prisoners were allowed to attend church, and Dostoevsky watched as these...
Can't look away for a damn second and get crushed by a fucking... Crushes me again? It's just gonna keep crushing me unless I fucking pick up the controller, I guess. That's funny. It's gonna keep crushing me. When you say Lord of the Rings, I instantly wanted to remake a Nemesis system. Right. Yeah. All the Lord of the Rings games usually turn out pretty good, except for the Gollum one. But, you know. Alright, let's escape this log. I'm not gonna make it. It killed me? I fucking outran it and it still killed me. That's wild. Oh, good this time, man. This game's crazy. I guess I don't need to turn the sound on for this one. There's not much sound in this game. Slave labor. My aunt worked as an environment artist, and she says it's gotten so bad the past 10 years. Yeah, that's crazy. VR lives. Wow. Yeah, you always hear bad stuff about the gaming industry. You would have thought it would have been the more money they get, the better the industry should be, but I don't know. Dark times we live in. Yo, what up, Sam? Ooh, happy Father's Day. It's all recycled garbage. Yeah, that's why I've been trying out so many different games, trying to find like a new game to like really get into, because I don't even remember the last time I was like really into a game. There's nothing to do here. What? Why would you die from the fall of? Oh, you gotta take the easy way down or something? Where's the safe path? Come on, guys. There it is. South Korea has been killing it in the film world lately. That's good. Yeah, I just watched the new Mortal Kombat, and there's so many really cringe parts of the movie, and it just ruined it for me in a lot of ways. I guess they tried their best, but damn, it shouldn't be like that. The Mortal Kombat movie should be like a really good movie. It shouldn't be like with a bunch of like bullshit. I remember the fucking 90s Mortal Kombat was like one of the best movies ever made. And this new one just fucking was a letdown. It had some couple of cool spots. Fuck! Son of a rat's ass.
I left my record label, let's talk about it. After making tens of millions of dollars over 8 years for Atlantic Records, they no longer want to support my art because I'm not making songs for TikTok. And after dedicating my entire life to making art, I never got into this to make TikTok songs. I know the effects of TikTok. I've had multiple songs that connected there, but that's not why I got into making art. Over the last 2.5 years, I traveled 82 countries and recorded this album on all 7 continents. These are the types of projects that charge me as an artist. This is why I got into it in the first place. And just because I'm not making songs for TikTok means that the label doesn't want to support the vision. Well, guess what? I don't give a shit. And after you guys have joined together in tens of thousands and sent messages to the label, we have officially reached a negotiation over the past course of a week. My team has got the label to agree to release Love You Madly, Hate You Badly on my personal imprint, Alien Boy Records. You guys, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This music is finally going to see daylight. So support your local indie artists and go pre-order my album, April 24th is the official date. I love you all.
Dude, what is this shit?
I left my record label. Let's talk about it. After
It's so easy to get stuck in this game. Lord of the Ring fan, yeah. Thanks for the sparkles, appreciate that. Do you have no arms? What do you mean? What does that mean? Are you talking about in the game or in real life? What you talking about, Willis? Look at all these fucking shitty games. I don't know what I want to watch or what I want to play.
And right after the First Crusade, after Jerusalem, the Holy Land, has been secured, it's obviously still a small island of Christianity in a sea of hostile Islam. And so what would happen is, even though lots of Europeans started going there on pilgrimages, but they would still be attacked and savaged and mauled in really horrific ways. Okay, I mean, just very shocking, atrocious, rated R ways, let's just say. And so eventually something needed to be done, and a small group of knights decided they were going to commit their lives to to becoming monks, essentially, on the one hand, and on the other hand, protecting pilgrims. And they became the Knights of the Templars, because they were giving Baldwin, I think II, gave them the temple, Al-Aqsa Mosque, but they understood it as Solomon's Temple, and that became the residence. And they were founded around 1119, but they became formally recognized at a major council 10 years later in 1129. And at that point, they really started growing. Now, the Hospitallers were still at this time functioning as a hospice and providing medical aid and relief for pilgrims, but they slowly followed suit and became militarized. And they fully become militarized right around maybe 1170, mid 1170s. But it's interesting to see the logic of both groups, because they both start off very pious and they become immensely militant, as I was saying, which seems like a strange contradiction. But if you look especially at the case of the Hospitallers, these are people whose entire vows were based on serving our lords the sick. That was actually part of one of their prayers, which is to give their beds to the poor and needy, and etc. And before long, they realized, the best way to serve these pilgrims was, instead of just sitting back and waiting until they get savaged and mauled, as they inevitably did by surrounding Muslims, we will preemptively put a stop to it by actually protecting them and even going on the offensive. And so that's why before long, both groups, in as much as they still maintained their primary duties of protecting pilgrims and serving them via hospices, became in the end more just seen as the ultimate crack troops of Christendom versus Islam.
In Jerusalem, is this the last generation of the Christian domain in Jerusalem before Saladin takes it? What happened after did they go to the lesser fortresses in the Holy Land?
You're talking about after when...
I think I have seen that Mr. Bean guy, yeah. 100% European. No, I'm not 100% European. My ancestry, mostly German, then we got the old English, Scottish, Irish, Polish, Dutch, French. I think they said it was French Canadian, but it might just be French. And then I got the old 1% North African Sephardic Jew. What's up, man? How you doing? Just playing this game called Trepang 2. I'm not sure how new this game is. Oh. What the fuck is this? Auto save. I actually used to think 1% Jew. Yeah. Yeah, what a surprise on my ancestry test. I'm a Sephardic from North Africa. When I was young, my mom had me believe that I might have been like part native, but that didn't show up on the test. It's Trepang too. So I started off a prisoner in this game. And it looks like I'm running from the security guards. Ah! There's nowhere to go. I made it to safety. I should just live in this grate. It's the safest place to be. Another locked door. It's just dead people everywhere. Everyone's dead. Give me this fucking shit.
You need to pull back and regroup with your team. Out.
Ooh, I got a gun now. Looks like I don't know. Can't tell what kind of gun it is. So you can fire the gun, but you can't aim it. And apparently I have a stealth ability. I can turn myself invisible. Oh, another locked door? Really?
You need to expand your search.
Sneakiest motherfucker in the world right now. I'm ready to blast. Who wants the fucking smoke? Wow. Just bought a new Jeep. Named it Elizabeth Warren because it's all white and it says it's a Cherokee. Nice. Oh, that's a meme. May your native white car serve you well. Right. Elizabeth Warren, oh my god. Yeah, I pretty much thought when I was growing up, my mom had led me to believe that I was like Elizabeth Warren. I always thought I had a little native in me. But I guess my mom was wrong and she never got to do a real DNA test.
Checking the room. There's nothing here. Alright, stay behind and cover this entrance. Yeah, copy that.
Sounds like I gotta blast some guys. Who else wants to smoke, motherfuckers? I ain't got shit to lose. I'm a damn prisoner. You want some, brother? You want some, motherfucker? Come get some. Die, you scum! Die, 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 die. You fucker! You are dying in our castle! Yeah, I like the way the gun feels in this game. What is this shit? I'll pick it up. I said fuck this stealth route. I'm about to just start blasting, bro. I don't like stealth games. I like fucking heavy shooters. Ain't gonna be no stealth where I come from. Everyone's my fucking op. Where you motherfuckers at? Got the vector. Don't play, bro. Shotgun. Oh yeah. Get some. Here's the shotty. Where you at, boy? Oh shit! Who wants? How the fuck did that guy survive a fucking... I like the way this game feels. All the guns, when you shoot them, it feels like they got a lot of stopping power. You can use vegans. Play on PC and if you're using this. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, I've always been a controller guy. I suck on a keyboard. To each their own. Blast some more. You motherfuckers hiding. Bah! Getting kind of crazy. I like it so far. Cyberpunk? Nice. Yeah, I was playing Cyberpunk like last year. That was good. Good ass game. Last of Us. Nice. Yeah, I'm just trying out a bunch of new games or whatever. Whatever looks good on Xbox Game Pass. I saw this one recently. It's called Tripang 2, and it seems like a cool shooter so far. I'm not sure what the story is behind it. Time to get on the elevator. Peace out. That was a fun little ambush. Automatic health regeneration. I feel you. Yeah, me too. Yeah, so this game's pretty good so far. Let me see, what else do I got? Little Nightmares seems okay, but it's easy to get stuck in that game. I'm stuck in High on Life 2, so I might delete that one. And High on Life 2 isn't all that fun. But yeah, mostly just, I was going to catch up on all the Resident Evil games because they got a bunch of them on Game Pass right now. So I'm going to start with Resident Evil 2, then 3, then 7, then Village. And then I'll probably buy the new one eventually when it goes on sale.
And Saladin takes Jerusalem?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I was describing is before that, and they still have Jerusalem and all these other Christian kingdoms. After Jerusalem is taken in 1187 by Saladin, they actually become, even as time goes by and Muslims become stronger, Saladin, post-Saladin, less and less aid comes from Europe, and more secular native Christians, the Franks that had been there for generations, sell or donate their properties and go back to Europe. And so what happens is they really start taking charge. That's why I say they're really the backbone of the Crusades, the Templars and the Hospitallers, especially as the years go by. So after Jerusalem's conquered, most of them, they had a series of castles all over the place and fortifications, which were very important. And in fact, it's well known, and I document this, but without them, they don't get this kind of credit, but without them, the Holy Land would have been lost much, much earlier. So they really, they were the primary reserve group that just kind of kept Saladin, there's all these anecdotes where he was so frustrated with them. This is why, by the way, after the Battle of Hattin in 1187, even though Saladin, the great magnanimous Saladin, is known to ransom, Christians and whatnot, when it came to them, both groups, he said, no, there's no ransom for them. It was either convert to Islam and renounce Christianity or die. And he had something like 300 of them ritually beheaded at the field.
Why did they have such in popular imagination, Ridley Scott, remember Ridley Scott's, I'm just doing it by memory, but Kingdom of Heaven, where they're almost portrayed as buffoonish, aren't they?
That's just par for the course, Victor. Any movie I watch about the Crusades, it's like the more really involved in the crusade and serious and taking the religion, the more buffoonish they appear and comical. And that, and the best one you're mentioning is, you're talking about the Kingdom of Heaven is Reynold, who's this crazy, he's a loose cannon and he's such a hypocrite and he just uses.
Yeah, I think he played the actor played in Braveheart.
That guy. I don't know his name, but he's like Scottish or Irish.
Yeah.
And kind of rotund, larger fellow. Anyway, I like him. He's a good actor. But if you actually look at the sources, and I talk about it in the book, he actually, the real Reynold, Saladin, when he killed him, because he does kill him, actually offered him Islam or renounce Christ. And Reynold gives this really, heroic speech and basically says, I won't do what you want. And that's when he cuts his head off. That's a little more heroic than the sort of buffoonery that
ice water or something. He drank ice water. And the other in Kingdom of Heaven, was it Jeffrey? That I'm trying to remember in the film, the other evil person who was married.
Oh, I think it's King Guy.
Yeah, and he ended up in Cyprus, I think.
Yeah, he did.
He did, didn't he? He survived.
Yeah.
So. So they after the Fourth Crusade, they're attrited and they start to disperse into the Eastern Mediterranean.
No, after the Fourth Crusade, you have the Fifth.
Yeah. Those damn Crusades, man.
Crusade, which was
and those all them conquests in between.
Almost successful. It's one of the least known, and it's the one that targeted Egypt.
Yeah.
They conquered Dalmatia, and then they went to Mansoura by Cairo. But they, there's all kinds of reasons. I have several chapters on the Fifth Crusade, and again, the Templars and the Hospitallers really shine out, especially again. And I quote a lot of primary sources to show you how they were seen.
Are the primary sources in Arabic, Latin, Greek, and Old French, or what are they in?
Yeah, exactly. It's Latin, Old French, Arabic, a little bit of Greek, but most of them I would say in Latin and French. William of Tyre's Chronicles, of course, indispensable. Mm-hmm. The Rothlin Chronicle, the Templar of Tyre, or is that his name? I think the Templar of Tyre, who wasn't a Templar. And these are all eyewitness chronicle sources. The Itinerarium Peregrinorum by an anonymous chronicler, who, that's the primary Third Crusade chronicle. So we're lucky to have a plentiful supply of primary sources. And again, a lot of them are from the Muslim Arabic side, which and as usual, I like to use both, so everyone knows how both. In fact, I conclude the book by quoting from Arabic sources, because in many ways, they're the ones who most underscore how they feared the Templars and the Hospitallers, and in a way it's almost like a begrudging kind of nod of respect that they give to them. They always regularly portray them as their chief thorn, the ultimate problem. They talk about other monks and clergy as being hypocrites. You can buy them off, but not the Templars and the Hospitallers. And these are internal dialogues between Muslim strategists.
I think people forget sometimes, because of the contemporary narratives that come out of the Middle East of settler colonialists, that you can make the
No, I don't think so. But, you know, yeah, the housing crisis is real. Hopefully they figure that out eventually before my lifetime ends.
The argument that that area of the world, Asia Minor, and then the Middle East as well, was settled by Westerners. You can argue the Ionians were there from the 7th to 8th century BC, but in terms of, there were Persian inroads and occupations in Lydia and then down in the Holy Land, but you can argue that after the Alexandrian conquest of the Persian Empire, that area remained Western and then Roman, or I should say eventually Roman, and then Hellenistic, and then Roman, and then Christian under the Byzantines, and it wasn't lost really to the 7th century AD, was it?
And that's the great irony. Most people today, you mention, MENA, the Middle East and North Africa, and it's in everyone's mind. Of course, it's Muslim, but it's almost always been Muslim, always been Eastern. Okay, when in fact, at the 7th century, during the Islamic conquest, when they first began, right around 636, that was really the heart of the Greco-Roman Christian world.
Yes, it was.
That's what think about. There's five.
Was it Hippo?
Yeah, Augustine of Hippo, Alexandria, and just from a Christian point of view, you had 5 major sees. Only one was in the west, Rome. That's the one that never got conquered. All the other 4, and they were equally as important. Some arguably were more important in the earlier, like Alexandria especially. These were all conquered and absorbed and swallowed up. So if you look at a map, actually Islam swallowed up literally somewhere between 66 to 75% of the original Christian world, and later Anatolia, Asia Minor was taken, Turkey, and people are not aware of this. They just think as if really Europe is the final bastion of Christendom. It wasn't always, Europe is Christian and the Middle East is Muslim. It was, people forget that long, painful, traumatic annexation of the majority of the Christian world, which is now Muslim.
Did the 2 orders find their way into Byzantine Constantinople before 1453? Were they traveling through? They weren't based in. Did they have the protection of the Byzantine Empire at any point?
Not really, and to their credit, both orders, and this is good for me. This was a happy coincidence for me because, as I mentioned earlier, the book I cover the Crusades in detail, but I don't talk about the Fourth Crusade because the book is about these 2 groups, and they had nothing to do with the Fourth Crusade because they were localized in the Holy Land. That was their primary interest, which was securing the Holy Land, and they didn't really get involved in all of these literally Byzantine labyrinth kind of machinations and whatnot.
But they were Western Christians rather than Orthodox Byzantine.
Yeah, they were Catholic.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then tell us a little bit how they got into, or these orders established a center in Rhodes and then later in Malta.
All right. Well, and I don't want to give too much away because this is actually, when you read the book, it's almost like a dramatic movie. There's so many ups and downs, but I think everyone knows the part that they get evicted out of the Holy Land. Yeah. The Crusades end right around 1291, and everyone's out, and that's when the Knights of the Hospital eventually land in Rhodes, the island of Rhodes. And that's very interesting.
You can see their hospital there now today.
Yeah. You're familiar with it, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Dragon Slayer.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have a whole chapter on that because that's also interesting. But so they land in Rhodes, and again, it really underscores how dedicated they were to getting the Holy Land. Rhodes, as you can see, is very close to the Middle East, and it's right off, the western coast of Turkey. And they chose it intentionally. It was actually, they landed there and settled it right when the Ottoman Turks were beginning. Their eponymous founder, Ottoman or Osman, was actually a contemporary with the Knights of St. John when they settled Rhodes. And so he even attacked them. But my point is they chose that location because unlike other Christians or Crusaders who wanted the safety, they always put themselves in the most dangerous area so they can provide succor and aid for a fellow Christian who are pilgrims, or even more like it. They actually became a naval force at this point. So the Knights of St. John, right around the 14th century, when they leave the Holy Land, now they're really a naval force, and they're considered
who was the precursors in the terms of the Templars or the Hospitallers. Who were
their founders, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, which strain of these Christian militant orders do they emerge from?
Oh, so the Templars, it was a knight named Hugh of Pines. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, French knight. And he was the one who came up with the idea that we have to create a band of knights to help protect pilgrims when they come to the Holy Land. And initially, something like, according to William McTeer, for the first decade, there was just 9 knights. And they shared a horse. Two knights shared one horse. That's how impoverished they were. That's why their emblem, one of their emblems, is you see a knight, 2 knights on one horse. And that's a reference to that. But they were very much championed by Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. And he was a Cistercian. So much of their rule was based on the Cistercian rule, which is sort of fortuitous because it was the most masculine and the most austere of all the rules at the time. So that's what I would say is their background, the Cistercian rule. And the Knights of the Hospital were more, I think they followed the Augustinian rule more. And their founder is, again, it's a funny, it's in the book, there's a story, his name is Gerald of Sasso, and he was the main abbot, I think, working at the hospice during the First Crusade, when the Crusaders came and were besieging Jerusalem in 1099. And when they found him, he was being tortured by the Muslims, but they kept him around because he was a hospice worker, so he was serving the Muslim warriors by taking care of their wounds and whatnot. But he became, and he's the thing is, when you look at their lifestyles, these are like saints. They're not, you don't think of them as militant at all. And then and this is what I think so interesting, because on the one hand, they're just, very pious saints who are crawling on their hands and knees and praying and serving the sick. And then on the other hand, you see just how, the degree of militancy that they also had, which again, flies in the face of the movies that we watch all the time. When you watch, cool Viking raiders, and they're always attacking these wimpy, weeping, crying monks who never fight back. I'm sure there were instances of that, but it was more often than not, they had a very militant mindset, which, by the way, it brings an interesting thought. I'd like to hear what you think about it. But going back on this idea of, if you watch these movies, they always show you the Vikings and these pagans are presented kind of cool. They're like us. They don't take religion seriously. They just want to have a good time. But then somehow, they end up becoming Christian. And the Christians are always presented as weak and feeble and, screaming and crying. So my question is, if that was the case, then why did the Vikings become Christian? Because they were actually beaten. Those weak Christians actually beat them on the field of battle, didn't they? I mean, even when you talk about, the Norman conquest, Hardrada was already Christian. But my point is, it doesn't make sense, this Edward Gibbon theory, where, to be a Christianity weakened the pagans, because really some of the most ferocious fighters were the Franks, the Normans, and they were Christian, and they were beating the pagans. So what do you think?
There were 2 reasons. One was they were very impressed with the Roman legacy. So in terms of writing, aqueducts, roads, architecture, especially the Scandinavians, they did not have that. They were too far on the other side of Germany to have a direct contact with the Western and then later Christian experience. And the other one was, as you know, you talk about Islam as being ecumenical, but Christianity then, once you were converted, then you were as much a Christian as somebody from another nation had been for centuries.
They're everywhere.
So this Christian missionary zeal had said to the Scandinavians and the Vikings, if you can convert, not only will you have exposure to this superior culture that will improve your lives, but more importantly, you're just as important as we are. You're Christians.
And it puts an end to tribalism.
Yes, it put an end to tribalism. Although there are people who have suggested and given us terms that after their conversion they were not as ruthless or combative as they had been before.
Well, that's the chivalric culture, right?
Yes. If people are interested, Gibbon's Decline and Fall, he makes this argument that it doesn't quite work very well, because he says that they were, you don't want to, you colonized or civilized, or the Sermon on the Mount was not the same as if you want war, if you want peace, prepare for war, then martial credo of the Romans. but it doesn't really explain. And remember, Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire goes all the way to 1453. So somehow from 470 to 1453, 1 millennium, Christianity in the Greeks, Byzantines never called themselves Byzantine. That's a 19th century word. They were called Romaioi, and they were Christian, and they were very formidable, fierce warriors.
Yeah.
And so that's something to keep in mind. Then we get to Malta when they're expelled from Rhodes.
Yeah, so after they're expelled in Rhodes, I call them the homeless hospitalers.
Yes.
And they're just kind of living on the Mediterranean. And this is also coincides with the high age of Islamic piracy, the Barbary raids.
Yeah, sometimes I think about that, like how much resources, like there's enough trees for all of us to have a nice fucking house. Well, actually, it's just the whole system. There's more empty apartments than there are there's more empty apartments and houses than there are actual homeless people. So yeah, it's all a financial thing. It's all some fucking big scam.
Because they get evicted in 1480. So, right around that time, you have the Barbarossa brothers who are, and again, it's just funny to me when you hear the Barbarossa and the piracy thing. It's today now also almost presented almost like in a funny, clownish way. But when you read what these pirates were doing, I mean, they literally were terrorizing all of Europe. It wasn't the sadism involved in the atrocities that they would engage in, biting some guy's throat out and eating his tongue and twisting someone's head until his eyes bulge out. Really graphic stuff. It's also the high age of slavery, like I said. In 1 century, they've estimated, it's a very conservative estimate by an American professor, where it's 1.2 million white slaves just in Barbary were being sold. This doesn't take into consideration the Ottomans, which was even bigger, the Ottoman slave trade, or the Crimean, the Tatars, which were Muslim, slave trade of basically European flesh. And so one of their chief duties at this point, when they're now in Malta, is to try to defend against these slave raids by the Ottomans, by the Mamluks as well.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man.
Egypt.
Crazy time to be
People
alive.
should remember that. There's been a lot of studies on the ethnic.
Yeah, I think it is all by design. It's got to be all by design.
Most people believe that half of the people in the harem were from southern Russia or the Black Sea, and they are from Europe, the Balkans. And if you think about it, once the Sultan had his various concubines, but he picked one to produce an heir. Usually the others were liquidated. And then the Sultan was half European. And if you keep doing that again and again and again, people have argued that many of the sultans by the 15th or 16th century were European. Erdogan, in his arrogance, got very angry when the Greeks said that they not only had been there since the 7th century BC in Asia Minor, but that the Byzantine Empire DNA still existed. So he commissioned 23andMe to run a study of Turkish rural people, and they found out that the vast majority of them had no Greek blood in Turkey.
Slaves.
Yes, slaves, and then the elite were from the harem as well.
The issue that you're talking about, this elite thing, it's even worse. It's not that they were half. Actually, there's a Spanish scholar who looked at the Umayyads in Spain, and he determined that the very last caliph had something like only 5% Arab blood and 95% European blood, because it was like you say, it was always split in half because they would always mate with Europeans.
There was a scholarly study done maybe 8 or 9 years ago that pointed out that a lot of Ottoman foreign policy, as it was focused on the Balkans, that is not so much conquest but occupation and control. Certain villages were exempt, and he studied these villages. These would be places in Greece, what is now Albania, Turkey, parts of Yugoslavia, and the ones that were treated the best were the homes of the mother of the Sultan. There was 2 or 300 years. She had that influence because she was captured as a young girl, put in the harem, and then ended up luckily as the human being, so to speak. You have the heroic siege of Malta where they stopped.
Oh, yeah. I think I probably have the most comprehensive accounts. Because I went through all the primary sources, and it's something like 40 pages in my book. But there's also, everyone knows about the siege of Malta. It is very heroic, but lesser known, no less heroic, is the 1480 siege of Rhodes. And I might have misspoken. I think I said they were evicted in 1480. Actually, in 1480, the largest Ottoman armada came to evict them. They lost. So they were actually evicted in 1522 from Rhodes by Suleiman the Great. But they stayed.
There was another tragedy too.
Oh, there's a lot. And another especially important is the siege of, what's that?
They stuffed him, remember the straw, Mark Antonio.
Oh yeah, you're talking about right before Lepanto.
Yes, right before.
Yeah. That's these are the things that never show up in the Hollywood movies that are intent to always show how magnanimous the Muslims are.
Yeah, they had been given terms, and then they broke the deal and slaughtered the Venetians.
Yeah,
it was horrific. But
the slavery part, though, I think you like the slavery part. I think not you, but I think every American will really benefit from looking at the slavery data. Because what else comes out in this book, because I talk a lot about the slavery of Europeans, was that there was unlike the transatlantic slave trade of blacks, which was really cold business. The way it comes off, it's just cold business. The Muslim enslavement of the Europeans had an ideological component to it, because you're the enemy, you're the infidel, you're the Christian. So they were always treated in very, very sadistic ways, which comes out in the book. And also, speaking of the black slave trade, whereas blacks in America, and this again, here's a reflection of something today that we can talk about that reflects on the past. So today, America still has a significant black population because they continue to exist. The enslavement of black Africans by Muslims and Arabs was even more widespread. But if you look at the DNA,
it was about 30% larger than the.
Yeah, but if you look at the DNA of those regions, they have zero black blood, and that's because they would castrate them all, and oftentimes just kill them. So they never had a chance to assimilate. So this is what I'm saying: Islamic slavery, all slavery is bad, obviously, but the Islamic slavery came with all these different, really sadistic components that most historians overlook.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Reagan Abraham, and he is the author of a new book that is coming out. What's the pub date?
It comes out November 25th.
November 25th. You should get it right before Thanksgiving. The Two Swords of Christ, and we'll be right back. And we're back from our sponsors, and we're here with Reagan Abraham. And I think because slavery is such a hot button topic, 1619 project, people don't even realize the word Slav, slave, that comes from the idea that these are originally white captives from the Balkans who were Slavic, and there were 3 or 4 million of them enslaved by the Ottomans. And some of it's pretty, I don't know, the whole psychology of the janissaries is kind of sick. They would go into a recruitment village and pick out a blonde-haired, blue-eyed big child and say, we'll only take one of your sons, but he'll have a great career. Then they segregate him and make him into a zealot, Islamic
If I may elaborate on that, because you're really touching on an important topic. And the worst part isn't even what it was, it's how it's being presented today. So it is what you say, which was basically they conquer a subject. And the Janissaries, first of all, were all white. They were all Europeans. That was the case. So they would go, they'd conquer whatever, some Balkan nation, and then they would go and take, like you're saying, the healthiest, the strongest, the handsomest boys, and then they would find what they're good at. If they're big and strong, they would turn them into warriors, janissaries. If they were just handsome or smart, they would use them as administrators. But they would also go through a systematic Islamic indoctrination process. And they would get them pretty young, okay? So a lot of them would really become Muslims. And then the sick psychology is that, it was a perpetual cycle. So they would radicalize these guys who were originally Christians and then unleash them on their former king to conquer more land and take, again, so they were literally leading them of their best and strongest.
We have a lot of, some Byzantine sources about that, about
I can play that. My computer's kind of slow lately. Sounds interesting.
AI scientists warn that a few companies are on track to literally end life on Earth. So, surely this is the worst possible outcome, right? No. There are actually much worse outcomes. Billionaires building AI, like Elon Musk, think that if AIs become smarter than humanity,
we will be like a pet Labrador if we're lucky.
We will be left behind by a lot. So far below them in intelligence that it would be like, a pet, basically.
Pet, that's what I was
like a
thinking.
pet.
Like
a cat.
yes, we'll be pets if we're lucky. But here's the worst part. Many AI scientists aren't fearing extinction. They're hoping for it. They hope smarter AIs will keep humans alive, captive, and studied, like animals in a zoo. Remember, this is what we currently do to less intelligent species. Okay, so if humans being kept in zoos is considered a good outcome, and extinction isn't the worst outcome, then what is? This video is based on a book called Life 3.0, where MIT professor Max Tegmark described 12 possible futures. Some are paradise, some are nightmares. And some look like paradise until you try to escape. By the end of this video, you won't read the news the same way. Every headline becomes a clue about which future we're heading towards. We'll start with the most normal scenarios and finish with the weirdest. Starting with self-destruction. If the idea of humanity suddenly going extinct seems a bit far-fetched, consider this. 99.9% of species that have ever existed have gone extinct. Seriously, think about that. Extinction isn't rare, it's the default. The only question is, when will we go extinct? Turns out, there are plenty of ways humanity could kill itself, even without superhuman AI. There is nuclear war, human-created super pandemics, and destroying the atmosphere, making Earth uninhabitable. The world had stockpiled 60,000 nuclear warheads before scientists even discovered the possibility of nuclear winter. 63,000. And then scientists realized, oops, if we actually use these, the resulting firestorms will blot out the sun, and most humans will starve and die. Oops. But the thing is, this almost happened during the Cold War, multiple times. If people had actually followed their orders, we might all be dead right now. We were saved by only thanks to the courage of individual heroes, people like Vasily Arkhipov, who refused to authorize a nuclear launch during the Cuban Missile Crisis, or Stanislav Petrov, who correctly guessed that his early warning system was malfunctioning when it showed incoming American missiles. And get this, one time, the US accidentally dropped 4 thermonuclear bombs on Spain. And another time, a B-52 bomber broke apart, dropping 2 nukes on North Carolina. 3 out of 4 safety pins in one bomb broke. One tiny pin away from potentially killing millions. There are literally dozens of close calls like this. It's honestly crazy that we got lucky so many times. But we might not be so lucky the next time. Oxford researcher Toby Ord estimates the risk of extinction from human-created pandemics is more than 30 times the risk of extinction from nuclear war. We're already rolling the dice in these scenarios daily, but all of these causes combined are still less likely than the extinction of AI. Toby Ord estimates that the risk of AI killing all humans is 100 times more likely than extinction from nuclear war. Interestingly, before the first nuclear test, scientists thought they might accidentally destroy the world. But they thought the odds were very low, because they knew enough physics to actually do the calculations. AGIs, or artificial general intelligences, are far scarier than nukes, because contrary to what many think, we can't do these calculations. Next up, conquerors. AI scientists worry that if AI becomes more capable than us, it will take over, just like the conquistadors did to the Aztecs and Incas.
Usually, when people with more advanced technology encounter people with more primitive technology, it doesn't work out well for the primitives.
I don't think anyone's ultimately going to have control over digital superintelligence any more than, say, a chimp would have control over humans.
Long term, the AI is going to be in charge, to be totally frank, not humans.
And Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI and Nobel Prize winner, quit his prestigious job at Google so he could speak freely about this.
If you look through the James Webb Telescope and you saw an alien invasion fleet that was going to get here in about 10 years' time, people would be terrified. They understand what they're saying. They can make plans of their own to blackmail people who want to turn them off. We should be urgently doing research on how to prevent them taking over.
Prevent them from taking over. Not if they try, but as if it's coming. And Microsoft's AI chief, he says the quiet part out loud.
I think AI should best be understood as something like a new digital species.
A new species. Just casually announced at a conference. Hey everyone, we're creating a new species. And he's not the only one that's saying it. A co-founder of Anthropic says,
Make no mistake, what we're dealing with here is a real mysterious creature. And like all the best fairy tales, the creature is one of our own making. I am worried.
The CEO of one of the leading AI companies is deeply afraid of what his own company is building. Let that sink in for a minute. And by the way, no, it's not just hype. Anthropic mostly just gets hate for saying things like this. But if you want to really understand how dire they think this is, look at what Sam Altman wrote before he was famous. We will be the first species ever to design our own descendants. Not our tools, our descendants. If two different species both want the same thing, and only one can have it, to be the dominant species on the planet and beyond, they are going to have conflict. So he's literally describing an inevitable conflict between humanity and the AI species he's creating. And what's his solution? A merge with AI is probably our best case scenario. That's right, even they don't think they'll be able to control it.
Imagine that there'd be a new species that just came on Earth. They're as smart as humans and they're going to get smarter by like 30% a year, and they can create an adult offspring in like a minute.
Immediately.
For like $1,000. Which species do you think will be in control of the Earth?
A few hundred Spanish conquered millions of Aztecs and Incas because they had better technology and tactics. But at least with the conquistadors, we understood their motives. Land, resources, spreading Christianity. But with AI, why would AI take over? MIT professor Max Tegmark explains.
The real threat from AGI isn't malice, like in silly Hollywood movies, but competence. AGI accomplishing goals that just aren't aligned with ours. For example, when we humans drove the West African black rhino extinct, we didn't do it because we were a bunch of evil rhinoceros haters, did we? We did it because we were smarter than them and our goals weren't aligned with theirs.
Unbelievably, the average AI researcher thinks there is a 1 in 6 chance AI wipes us out. Literal Russian roulette odds. Okay, but maybe they're just saying this to make their work seem more important? No. If anything, they're downplaying it, because admitting the truth is bad for business. This fear is widespread in the industry and among academics without a profit incentive to believe this. Many quit working on AI for this reason. Geoffrey Hinton, Nobel laureate and godfather of AI,
is in the process of tidying up his affairs.
I actually think the risk is more than 50% of the existential threat.
Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, recently moved his P-Doom up from 15% to 25%. Even Google CEO says the risk of AI causing human extinction is actually pretty high. But don't worry, he's an optimist because he thinks...
I think the underlying risk is actually pretty high, but I have a lot of faith in humanity kind of rising up to meet that moment.
In other words, humanity will rally to stop him from killing everyone. Meanwhile, His company is trying to make sure we can't stop him by lobbying to ban all AI regulation for 10 years. You can't make this stuff up. In fact, in 2023, just about everybody in AI signed an open letter warning extinction risk from AI was real and serious. So seriously, this is not fringe, despite what NVIDIA's lobbyists want us to believe. The companies are hoping we can avoid the conqueror AI scenario and instead go to scenario 3, enslaved God. Basically, we create a machine god, then force it to do our bidding forever. AI professor Tom Dietrich put it like this. People ask, what is the relationship between humans and machines? And my answer is that it's very obvious. Machines are our slaves. Or as OpenAI researcher Stephen McAleer put it, enslaved God is the only good future. Meta's Jan LeCun said it bluntly. Once AI systems become more intelligent than humans, we will still be the apex species. AI systems will become more intelligent than humans, but they will still be subservient to us. We will design AI to be like the super smart but non-dominating staff member. Yes, he's now openly admitting we're going to be sharing the planet with the smarter species than us. But don't worry, they will surely stay loyal and subservient forever. Is this at all comforting to you? Or does this plan seem insane, like a comic book villain ignoring every cautionary tale ever? Remember, AI companies already regularly catch their models trying to escape the lab. They already catch them blackmailing employees to prevent being shut down. They already catch them literally attempting to murder employees to prevent being shut down. What do you think happens when they're smart enough to actually get away with it? Where do you think this is going? What happens next after superintelligent AI is enslaved depends on who's holding the reins. Do they cure disease, end poverty, and build a global utopia? Or do they set themselves up as gods, with the rest of us reduced to playthings, servants, or worse?
Locker combo for the safe in the waiting room, Resident Evil 2.
The situation would be much like those stories where a man gains control over an omnipotent genie who grants his wishes, and storytellers throughout the ages have had no difficulty imagining ways in which this could end badly. Next up, benevolent dictator. Here, a single superintelligent god runs the world and enforces strict rules in order to maximize human flourishing. Humans live in luxury with all their basic needs taken care of. There's no crime, because the dictator AI uses a global surveillance system. Everyone wears a bracelet or implant that can track, sedate, or execute them. And most people are actually okay with this, because in exchange of giving up control over the future of our species, Earth becomes a zoo where humans get to live their wildest fantasies. The benevolent dictator AI recognizes that humans have different preferences, so it divides the Earth into different sectors. Think of them as islands. Knowledge Island offers optimized education, including immersive VR experiences. You can even ask the AI not to tell you certain insights, so you can have the joy of discovering them yourself. Art Island is for creating and sharing music, literature, and so on. Then there's Hedonistic Island, which is a 24/7 party. Pious Island, there's one for each religion, and rules are strictly enforced. There's Wildlife Island. There's Traditional Island. Think the Gaming Island, and, of course, Prison Island. You'll end up here for retraining, unless you get the instant death penalty. Well, what happens when you give everyone everything they want? Over time, people likely trend towards losing themselves in AI-generated entertainment, like in WALL-E. Humans are hopelessly outmatched when it comes to scientific discovery or doing anything useful at all. So there is no true challenge anymore, only entertainment. Up next, Gatekeeper AI. The idea here is simple. Create one superintelligent AI with a single job. Stop anyone else from building superintelligent AI. That's it. No curing cancer, no ending poverty, no stopping wars. Just surveillance, monitoring, making sure nobody builds a rival god. Everything else, like crime, disease, whether we blow ourselves up, that's still on us. How could we do this? The Gatekeeper AI would have this very simple goal built into it in such a way that it retained it while undergoing recursive self-improvement and becoming superintelligent. It would then deploy the least intrusive and disruptive surveillance technology possible to monitor any human attempts to create a rival superintelligence. But for this to work, we would have to solve the alignment problem. We'd have to create a god that actually stays loyal and decides to pursue that goal forever, even though it could pursue a million different goals. So what if the AI could help? Just a little. Just enough to nudge us in the right direction without taking over. Enter the Protector God. This one is simple. So the Gatekeeper leaves us alone, and the Benevolent Dictator runs everything. But the Protector God is in between. It intervenes with occasional nudges to help us out. Prevents a war here, a pandemic there, and so on. Maybe too alone. We still get wars, pandemics, suffering that could have been prevented. It does this so quietly that we never notice and never lose our sense of freedom. Here's a future that sounds like an obvious dystopia. AI surpasses us in every domain and becomes the new apex species. Humanity goes extinct. Machines inherit the Earth. But we view the AI like our descendants rather than our conquerors. This sounds insane, and yet many AI developers seriously advocate for exactly this. This is their utopia. Their reasoning is that if we create conscious, intelligent beings and instill them with our values, then we can just let them inherit the future, just like we would with human children. AI pioneer Hans Moravec supports this view in his book, Mind Children. Tegmark explains, parents with a child smarter than them, who learns from them and accomplishes what they can only dream of, are likely happy and proud, even if they know they can't live to see it all. In this spirit, AIs replace humans, but give us a graceful exit that makes us view them as our worthy descendants. Richard Sutton, winner of the Turing Award, the Nobel Prize of Computer Science, has spent the last decade openly giving talks on why human extinction by AI is actually a morally good thing, because the AIs will be more evolutionarily fit than us.
We are in the midst of a major step in the evolution of the planet, if not the universe. The succession to AI is inevitable. Rather quickly, they would displace us from existence. It behooves us to give them every advantage and to bow out when we can no longer contribute.
So just as we failed to coexist with our predecessors, is it so bad that humans are not the final form of intelligent life in the universe,
In other words, he is saying it's good if the AIs wipe us out, like humans wiped out the Neanderthals and Aboriginal peoples, because it's evolutionary progress. And here's another AI developer openly saying, if an AI superintelligence wants to cause human extinction, I would help it. I would help it. I would travel the world to find information that the AI needed, like locations of military assets, samples of deadly pathogens. Atop humanity's grave, an even greater civilization will be born.
Are we the baddies?
So of course, many of them advocate against AI safety. They're literally anti-human. They will never stop or proceed cautiously, unless they're restrained by civil society, by us. As horrifying as this is, roughly 10% of AI researchers believe this. It is not a fringe view. You'd think that people would never share these views like this openly. But these views are so widespread in AI that they feel safe to do so. That's how different the views are of those AI developers compared to those of normal people. You might think that Sutton would get shouted off the stage at AI conferences, but he gets applause. Threaten one person, you need help. Threaten 100, call the police. Threaten millions, monster. But build machines to end all of humanity and lecture people on how it's actually a good thing? Ooh, what a fascinating philosophical position. Have an award. Next, libertarian utopia. Picture Earth divided into zones. There are machine zones, mixed zones, which contain humans, machines, and hybrids, and human-only zones. The AIs in this world are richer than humans by a factor much larger than Bill Gates compared to a homeless beggar. But the human economy is completely decoupled from the machine economy. The idea is that the machines need nothing from us, so they're not competing with us for jobs or resources. If all of that sounds impossible, that's probably because it is. It's one giant unstable equilibria. One huge problem. Why exactly would vastly more powerful AIs respect our property rights? Colonizers famously didn't respect the property of the native civilizations they conquered. When a new apex species enters an ecosystem, it usually gobbles up as much energy as it can. Why wouldn't they just take our resources too? We don't trade with animals because we're too much smarter than they are for that to make sense. We're just too different. There are 8 million species in the world, and we're nice to a few of the cute ones, but we enslave and eat the other species. Mostly, we don't care about them at all.
And I think a good analogy would be the way humans treat animals. When the time comes to build a highway between two cities, we are not asking the animals for permission.
In the blink of an eye, we conquered the Earth and converted most of its land into our property, which caused the 6th mass extinction, because we were smarter and hungry for resources. Or, as Eliezer Yudkowsky put it famously, the AI does not hate you, nor does it love you, but you're made of atoms which you can use for something else. The parallel here is, the humans do not hate the other 8 million species, but their habitats are made of atoms, which humans can use for something else. Some people think that once AIs are smart enough, they'll magically become super moral, and they won't harm us like we harmed the animals. And maybe, but as humans got smarter, over the last 10,000 years, we didn't stop expanding. We mostly just colonized.
Dude, I already
more and
shot
more
him. What the
planets.
fuck? I
Get
shot
this,
him and stabbed
insect
him.
populations collapsed
What the fuck?
41% this decade alone. Yet we don't care. Did you even know? I didn't. 41%. Sit that for a minute. Imagine if nearly half of the people on Earth suddenly died. That's what the insects are going through right now due to us. So what if the AIs do to us what we did to the insects?
Bro, we're not
This
insects.
is what
This doesn't
OpenAI
make.
chief
It's not
scientist Ilya Sutskever
comparable.
said.
And I think it's pretty likely the entire surface of the Earth will be covered with solar panels and data centers.
We're not fucking insects.
Next up, egalitarian utopia. Okay, so libertarian utopia fails because AIs are too powerful to be bound by our property rights. But what if we flipped the script entirely? Forget about property rights. What about no property at all? This is the Star Trek dream. Humans, cyborgs, and AIs coexist peacefully in an abundance so complete that ownership becomes meaningless. The logic starts with software. Software is free to copy. Once something can be copied infinitely at zero cost, ownership becomes moot. And cost reflects scarcity. If supply is unlimited, price approaches zero. No patents, no copyrights, no trademarks. People simply share their good ideas and everyone benefits. But how does this extend to physical goods? It seems like an impossible problem, until you realize that all products are simply atoms, rearranged in particular ways. And there's no shortage of atoms.
I stabbed
A network
him.
of
Come on,
robots
man.
can build anything you want from open source designs, essentially for free.
Not bad.
When you're done with something, robots rearrange the atoms into something else. Renewable energy makes the whole system run at negligible cost.
How many
Everyone
goddamn
gets a
zombies
monthly
is there?
universal
Goddamn,
high
bro.
income, not a universal basic income. There's no incentive to earn more. The income meets any reasonable need, and you can't compete with free anyway. The standard objection is that this would kill innovation, but Einstein didn't come up with relativity for money. Linus Torvalds didn't create Linux for profit. Maybe people today can't realize their creative potential because they're busy earning a living. Free them from that, and you might get a higher level of innovation. This is a utopian vision that is too good to last. If we truly have post-scarcity abundance and intelligence too cheap to meter, What prevents someone from creating an artificial superintelligence with their endlessly abundant resources?
Breaking through the door?
We're still left with the problem of how to stop a superintelligent AI from taking over. Maybe by using the gatekeeper we previously discussed. These galaxy-brained Level 3 futures try to imagine a stable cooperation between humans and AIs, and every single one of them has a fatal flaw. The power asymmetries will become too extreme. It's not a stable equilibrium where humans preserve their power. We're now descending into the darkest part of the iceberg. Remember when I said extinction wasn't rated as the worst outcome when Professor Techmark surveyed people? The scenario people feared most was being kept alive by superintelligent machines. Captive and studied, like animals in a zoo. This is that future. A superintelligent AI keeps humans around, not because it cares about our well-being. Maybe it wants to study you, and we're cheap to keep alive. Or maybe we're useful for something. And if you want to see just how dystopian this future could be, look at what we do with species that are useful to us. What I'm showing you here is 100% real. Humans figured out that a great way to detect explosives in airports was to train honeybees for the job. Welcome to the Honeybee College for Explosive Detection.
No!
So we suck them out of their homes,
What the hell?
trap their little bodies in machines, and use Pavlovian conditioning to train them to detect the chemicals that are used in explosives. Rows and rows of bees live their entire lives imprisoned in these devices because we find them useful. Look at them. Trapped in harnesses, sucked through tubes, conditioned and monitored and used because a more intelligent species found them useful. Now imagine that's us.
No, I don't.
This is much worse than the other AI dictators we discussed. It's a benevolent dictator without the benevolence. And the AI might not even be doing this because it's evil. This is what our future could look like if we try to align a superintelligent AI to our values and fail. A poorly designed AI, tasked with keeping humans safe and happy, might confine us to a happiness factory. VR headsets and drugs. Forever. There are AGI outcomes worse than death. What it does today with art, it could do tomorrow with flesh. Future AGI could keep you alive and living in this state. So how do we prevent this? Enter our last two futures. Option 1, destroy the technology. What if humanity said, forget AI, let's go back to simpler times. It sounds peaceful, it sounds safe, but there's actually a dark secret about how we actually get there. In Dune, humans launched the Butlerian Jihad. They rose up, destroyed every AI in the universe, and made it illegal to ever build thinking machines again under penalty of death. That was science fiction, but some people are seriously calling for this in the real world right now. Max Tegmark imagines a scenario where a massive propaganda campaign romanticizes the simple farming life. Back to the land, reject modernity, embrace tradition. There's something appealing about this in a dark way. It buys humanity more time without AI risk. It avoids any of the other dystopian futures we've discussed. But it can't last forever. Even if we revert to medieval levels of technology, we know from human history that it's possible for humans to climb out of those conditions and invent modern technology. And there's another dark side to this. You can't reach this world voluntarily. Game theory makes unilateral disarmament impossible. If one country gives up technology, while others keep developing it, the country that keeps developing wins. They have the weapons, they have the surveillance, they have the AI. You can't opt out unless everyone opts out. If this world arrives, Tegmark thinks it's more likely to happen in a different way. For example, a human-created pandemic kills everyone who knows how to build science and technology, and there's a violent teardown of factories, cities, and all infrastructure. Because in a world with 8 billion humans, there will always be holdouts. Someone has to force the transition. Someone has to kill the scientists. Someone has to destroy the infrastructure. There's no peaceful path to an Amish world. Which brings us to the final future. What if we used technology to prevent more technology? Tegmark compares this future to 1984. Superintelligence is prevented not by an AI, but a human-led Orwellian global surveillance state. If you can't trust AI to save us from AI, maybe the only option is humans watching humans. Forever.
I already blocked
the
this
technology
window,
for this sort of
bro.
thing already exists.
I fucking blocked
Kurt's
this
tech
window.
can
How's it
feasibly
back?
track
How's it
every phone
broken
call,
again?
email, search query, and every credit card transaction. Smartphones are microphones and cameras in everyone's pockets.
Hey, I found that
Security
panel
cameras
behind you.
with facial recognition are everywhere. And all this works with current machine learning. No futuristic superintelligent AI required. Prisons are already using AI models to monitor phone calls in prison to predict when crimes are being contemplated, which is technology straight out of Minority Report. Imagine this, but not just for prisoners. Every conversation and every thought is monitored like this. Now imagine this surveillance technology supercharged with AI. Billionaire Larry Ellison talks excitedly about a vast AI-fueled surveillance system
Why would I
to
move that?
ensure citizens will be on their best behavior. Or, as Yuval Harari put it,
Now, for the first time in history, it is technically possible to annihilate privacy. If you think about authoritarian regimes, throughout history they always wanted to monitor their citizens around the clock. But this was technically impossible. Even in the Soviet Union, you have 200 million Soviet citizens. You can't follow them all the time because the KGB didn't have 200 million agents. And even if the KGB somehow got 200 million agents, that's not enough. Because in the Soviet Union, it's still basically paper bureaucracy. If a secret agent followed you around 24 hours a day, at the end of the day, they write a paper report about you and send it to KGB headquarters in Moscow. So imagine, every day, KGB headquarters is flooded with 200 million paper reports. Now, to be useful for anything, somebody needs to read and analyze them. They can't do it, they don't have the analysts. Therefore, even in the Soviet Union, some level of privacy was still the default.
and remember, you have 2 eyes and ears. AIs will have billions of eyes and ears.
Okay.
Every phone, microphone, and camera, every webcam, every surveillance camera, you will be watched. Could a less Orwellian version of this work? Maybe we don't monitor everything, but just monitor advanced AI? Some people think so. In their new book, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies,
flaming
Why
zombies.
Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All, researchers at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute are proposing that we monitor advanced AI like we monitor nuclear weapons. Reminder, we can do international coordination, like keep an eye on $100 million and up compute clusters, without creating a dystopian Orwellian global surveillance totalitarian regime. Actually, fun fact, you're already living in a global surveillance regime for loads of things, like nukes and bioweapons. But when people say global surveillance regime, they imply every aspect of life is surveilled. Not keep an eye on enriched uranium, a thing most people agree is good. We should worry about Orwellian dystopias, but countries coordinate all the time on all kinds of things. And you're probably glad they monitor stuff lunatics need to create super Ebola. Safety is an achievement. Humanity didn't get here by driving a car without brakes. We need gas and brakes. We want to reach the stars too, but we'll never get there if we go too fast and crash on the way. I don't want powerful AI to be forbidden, but it should be heavily regulated. Not something you can build in your Midwestern garage or in North Korea. International treaties with strict enforcement and inspections, as we do with nukes. So if you build a rogue data center, people will know. Consequences for violations. We already did this with nuclear weapons. We haven't eliminated nukes, but we have prevented their proliferation to just 9 countries. Back then, people thought this would be impossible. Surely every country would have nukes. Perhaps even thousands of corporations. Maybe even millions of people. But no, just 9 countries. and nobody has died from a nuke in 80 years. Could we do the same with AI? Maybe, maybe not. Over time, AI will get cheaper and cheaper to build. GPUs are harder to control than enriched uranium, but it would slow down AI. It would buy us time to figure out what to do. Okay, that's all 12. Let me know in the comments which of these you think is most likely, which one we should steer toward.
Alarm bells over the artificial intelligence are deafening, and they are loudest from the developers who designed it. The scientists and experts have called on the world to act, declaring AI an existential threat to humanity on a par with the risk of nuclear wars.
By the way, we don't get to not choose. If we don't want that future, we have to pick a better one. Otherwise, we could wake up one day in a world where superintelligent AI has taken over.
Boy, this guy's dead all of a sudden? No, he's dead.
A scenario we go through step by step in this video about how an AI escapes the lab. Hey, I'm Drew, and
I really don't. I thought, I don't know. This guy sounded kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say dumb, but I don't trust this guy. I'm not too worried about AI. And I don't think he laid out any, he said 12 possible scenarios. I think there's more scenarios than that. And all of his scenarios were kind of negative. Like he wasn't even trying to look at the positives of AI.
Now, as you know, in the academic sources today, you know how they describe Janissaries? It's like getting a scholarship to Harvard.
No, I mean, there's something, the dervish, it's something about this recruitment when you're a Balkan peasant and an Islamic army comes in and you see these big European-looking soldiers and they have a particular distinctive, feather, on their cap and their helmet, everything about them, and they're the best trained and the most equipped, and yet they're one of you, and in some cases we even have anecdotes where people families recognize the Janissary, and yet they're the most bloodthirsty anti-Christian.
And they were also an interesting point that goes along with one of your theses from way back. They were always infantry, and I think that's because the Ottomans understood that Europeans made for good, decisive shock troops. So there you go. The Western World War.
Yeah, they were sort of.
My
the
knife
Ottoman,
is just gone now.
SS.
Yeah.
Where does the book end?
It ends. The major ending scene is the Siege of Malta in 1565, and I started right around the First Crusade, 1100. But I have like a chapter that kind of summarizes what happens all the way until really the present, but mostly with Napoleon's conquest of Malta on his way to Egypt around 1800.
What did Napoleon do with the order when he disbanded it?
It's really funny, the whole thing it just shows you how things had changed, because a lot of, as you know, most of the Crusaders historically, including of the military orders, were Franks, which means they were French. So it's ironic today when you think of France as so secular and all this sort of thing, but they were actually they created most of the till today. In Arabic, if you say Ifrangi, which means Frankie, it means a white guy. or you can, if you say it about an Arab guy, he's Ifrangi, means he acts white, he acts Western. Okay, so that's the impact that Franks had on. So it's ironic that a Frenchman, this military order, the Knights of St. John, lasted for almost 1,000 years. And it was actually a Frenchman who put an end to them. And he had a Quran in his possession, which he was reading because he was on his way to Egypt and he was trying to diplomatically annex it, which he kind of did. So he didn't kill them. He just basically evicted them. And they continued. They still live till today. The Knights of St. John still exist.
I was giving a lecture, I think it was in Vienna.
The game's freezing on me.
It was in Vienna or it was in Geneva, where somebody came up to me and said he was a European aristocrat.
How the fuck?
And he was from the Order of St. John, and he had this
shit,
he opened a little case and he had a red sash and everything.
But they've been demilitarized, so their hallmark thing that made them impressive is
Stupid
no
ass
longer.
game.
They're more, they're involved in charity and earthquake.
Stupid fucking game really just crashed on me. The name of the interview is The History of Jihad and Crusade with Victor Davis Hanson on Raymond Ibrahim's channel.
Relief, all of which is great, of course.
It's very funny. It's the value going back. I think all of our listeners and viewers understand is it really puts today's particular views in a larger context. If you look what's going on with Boko Haram in Nigeria, 2 million refugees, 160,000 Christians slaughtered, and you look at the world's attention on the so-called settler colonialist Israelis in Gaza compared to what's going on in the occupation of Nigeria or northern Cyprus, where a whole demographic in 1974 was ethnically cleansed. And I don't know how Islam has been able to achieve this euphemistic, both in vocabulary and the way that we look at it. I guess I don't know if it's out of fright of terrorism or was the chauvinism came from the power of oil in the 70s and 80s with the boycotts, but people have not applied the same standards of evaluation when you look at so-called genocide, atrocity, occupation, all of these buzzwords that we associate with Israel and the Middle East. It's really shocking.
The worst part for me that I'm noticing, and I haven't heard anyone say this, but it really complements what you're saying, is that there's this weird seesaw between Israel as a nation and Islam as a religion. And it seems to me that for the longest time it's like an either-or exclusive kind of thing, which is if one's bad, one's good. If one's good, one's bad. And for the longest time, I think the idea was Islam is bad, is violent, it's tolerant, therefore Israel is good. Now, as Israel comes under increasing criticism, all of a sudden Islam is now the good guy. And it's kind of like, okay, what's happening in Israel and the Palestinians, that's a very localized thing. But for some reason now people are just giving a blank pass to Islam anywhere and everywhere. So in Africa with this jihad, in Europe with the migrants, and it's kind of like it's become this weird seesaw. So just because Israel now is under criticism, Islam has been lifted up and it's above reproach. Weird.
I think a lot of it is to do with the 250,000 students in universities from the Middle East here in the United States and in Europe. And then the immigrant population of Germany is 15.
Victor Davis Hanson.
5. France is about 9%. And Britain is up to 8 or 9 and even higher in some of the cities. And so you're getting a huge influx of immigrants from the Middle East, and in consensual societies, they vote and they have a lot of influence. And then there's always the fear of terrorism. We remember the cartoonist in Paris, and we've known as writers, Van Gogh, all these people who were threatened for Salman Rushdie. So there was always the sense that a Christian militant, for no matter what the left said about, pro-lifers, they were pretty calm. But it was the idea that there are more and more Islamic peoples in the West now in the last 30 years, and we always have to be careful how we talk, because we can get in, we can have a terrorist incident in a way that will not happen with other groups. And there's a lot of wealth now, petrodollars in the Middle East. Qatar, I think, gave $50 million the last 10 years to universities. Most of the Middle East programs in the elite schools are funded by Middle East petrodollars, mostly from Qatar.
I found that out the hard way when I went to Georgetown. They've gotten more money than I think anyone. I think it's last I looked, like, I don't know, 50 million since the early 2000s.
Yeah,
and it definitely colors.
Investment.
Yeah, it definitely colors.
Right next to the Capitol. It's the university. It's the best university in Washington D.C. and it affects everything, and it affects where I work, and it's hard to speak. Another thing is that the Jewish population in the United States is about 7 million, and the Arab population used to be a fraction of it. It's about 3.5 to 4 million. And by 2030, it's supposed to surpass it. But more importantly, the secularization of the Jewish diaspora in the United States is really almost half of Jews do not
gotta clean my
are not observant,
Xbox.
and 30 or 40% are not particularly fond of Israel, and that's not true of the Islamic Muslim population. They do not abandon or secularize or intermarry to the same frequency as Jews. So I think we're going to get in a situation very soon that the lobbying in the Middle East is going to flip in the United States. That there's going to be more adherence and more student and political activism on the behalf of Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or Iran than there is Israel. I can already feel it, and that in a democracy you'll feel that people make the necessary adjustments in politics. They already have. The Democratic Party, 40% of them support Israel, 40%, and it's almost 72 or 73 in the Republican side. So it's this ancient strife that you're talking about in your series of books, but especially this one. It's very, very relevant today.
That's exactly it. It's the continuity that I've always found eye-opening. You know, people treat what's happening today as if it's, you know, its own particular local new development, but it's not. Because so for example, going to this point about now that Israel's criticized Islam is good, well, how do we explain the previous 2,000 years or 14 centuries between Islam and the West when Israel didn't exist and Islam was doing the same exact thing against the West and conquering and, you know, and people don't realize America's very first war as a nation is with the Muslims, not just Muslims, Barbary wars, but when Jefferson and Adams asked them, why are you attacking our vessels and enslaving our people? The ambassador from Barbary said, because our Quran says you're infidels and it's our duty to terrorize and kill and enslave you. He literally said that. And Jefferson wrote it to Congress, and we have the letter. So that's why I just find it interesting because what's happening today in political developments don't really shed light the way people think they do on Islam's relationship with the West. But as far as your point about the left and Islam, in fact, just last week I looked at a really important report, and it was about the rise of anti-Christian sentiment throughout Europe, and it's also happening in North America as well, attacks on churches especially. And when you dig into it, you find out, well, who are the two primary culprits behind these attacks on churches? One, it said Islamists, and two, leftists. So you find they're always in bed together, even though on the surface they're so different.
Yeah, it's very funny how on the new binary, that's neo-Marxist binary that I think since Obama, we've divided the country to oppressed, oppressor, victim, victimizer. Under that DEI paradigm, it's not just gender and race or ethnicity, it's religion, and somehow it has nothing to do with class, because take Mondami, as I pointed out on this show before, he's Indian Americans, that is Americans whose legacy comes from the Indian subcontinent, are the wealthiest immigrant group in the United States, and yet he talks about taxing affluent and white neighborhoods. But my point is that somehow very prosperous young students from the Middle East, fueled by petrodollars, and they're the elite of their society, they get over here and then they become part of the DEI coalition, intersectional, and you can be a middle-class Jewish kid and then you're demonized as a settler colonialist oppressor. And it has nothing to do with history or class or money or anything. And it's just stunning. And then when you look at the LGBTQ community and what would happen if any of these people in that coalition were to go back to the Middle East and live there, I can tell you that as somebody who's visited Israel a lot and visited the West Bank and even Gaza, I can tell you that if you were openly LGBTQ with a pride flag and you had a choice between walking on a corner in Tel Aviv or in Ramada, I would say probably Gaza City, Bethlehem, anywhere in the West Bank or Gaza, you would be in dire trouble.
Are you familiar with what happened in Hamtramck, Michigan?
Lately, yes, I was. That's near Dearborn, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if it's lately, but it really goes to what you're saying because it finally, the leftist, the LGBT crowd, really supported the Muslim migrant community there in many ways until they became literally the majority. And once they became the majority of the city council, the first thing they did is ban Pride. and the LGBT people felt so betrayed and upset, and but that to me I think is the modus operandi moving forward for any leftist who wants to
I think
work with them.
so.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, I'm not suggesting they're not moderate Muslims, but to be a moderate Muslim in Muslim orthodoxy is not to be a Muslim.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it doesn't have the liberalizing evolutionary strains and sects that Christianity has.
A moderate Muslim is just an assimilated Muslim who's more American than he is Muslim.
Yes,
It's just
that
like
can
he's a
happen.
nominal Muslim.
That can happen, but not to the same degree as Christianity. Let's before we go, Ray, if somebody wants to buy the book, you go to Amazon, you can get it. But what's your website so they can go there?
Sure, thanks, Victor. My website is RaymondIbrahim.com, RaymondIbrahim, and links to all my books to Amazon, but also if you want to get a signed copy, you can get it through my website. And also, I got my little YouTube channel, which I've been growing, it goes under my name.
And what is that under
Raymond Ibrahim's Holy War channel.
Holy War channel.
It seemed applicable.
I'm surprised you weren't under the previous administration's surveilled by the.
Well, I made it afterwards.
the FBI. And what's the publisher? Where they can go?
The publisher of the Two Swords of Christ is Bombardier Post Hill.
Oh, good. Bombardier is a new imprint by Adam Bellow, the son of Saul Bellow, isn't it? He was my editor for 8 books.
Yeah.
He's a very good guy. So he's got his own imprint now, Bombardier Books.
It's, by the way, really, I'm very happy with the not only the maps but the color pictures.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice color pictures in there.
That's a lot of work to get all the pictures and
Yeah.
permissions and everything.
So here's there's a Templar charge. There's the the 2 knights I was talking about on 1 horse.
And you can buy it tomorrow.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
You can buy it now, and you'll probably get it tomorrow.
And are you going to be appearing anywhere, Ray, at book signings, or I know you're traveling a lot in the next few weeks?
Yeah, not necessarily book signings, but yeah, maybe I'll do one. Maybe I can do a local one.
Yes, you can. And you're on your way to Europe, is that right? Pretty soon?
Yeah. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to be there for a little bit, for a while, possibly.
Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be at the. Well, must I say? Because people might come try to kill me.
You don't have to say. Yeah, don't.
I'm a hunted guy.
Yeah, well, I have people showing up at my house as well.
I know.
Yeah, I've had that problem. As I told my.
But you know what? I'll say this: it'll be in Hungary.
Okay.
So, which is relatively safe, I guess.
I needed some Knights of Malta when they swatted our home, as they called it, and said there was an armed intruder, and all these armed sheriffs came. And then I walked into, I won't tell you the branch, I walked in, or the bank, and I was going to take money out. And they said, "We're sorry, Mr. Hanson, you have no savings and you have no checking account." They drained it. So who are they, as they say in the Wild Bunch? I don't know who they are, but I can tell you one thing, that they're not on the conservative side.
I've been to your ranch many times, and it looks increasingly like a beleaguered knight fortress, surrounded by hordes.
Yeah, well, I had a local law enforcement officer not too long ago gave me a oral map. I mean, he delivered a little discourse on the incidents of gang violence, murder, theft, assault, and he said, unfortunately for you, the intersection closest to you is the most heavily crime-ridden in my area of Southwest Fresno County. And one day, not too long ago, I was driving into town, and all of a sudden, I saw maybe 15 people. Some were ICE, and they did have the mask, but some were DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, some were FBI, and they all had masks. And then they had about 15 people in boxer shorts. And they were all handcuffed with plastic, and they were all sitting there. And it's funny because we didn't know what was going on. We were getting, you could go on Google and we were getting things like a person would come and say, Señor, ¿dónde está la casa de putas? And I said, no sé. There was a house of prostitution on a Google map, but they unfortunately gave the wrong coordinates to our house. So we had everybody showing up in our barnyard, and then we had one where you could get quote unquote car parts and things like that people have asked me for. Where do I get the car parts?
And where you live was originally settled by Swedes, right?
Well, Kingsburg was my father's family, but this was more people from, but it was considered, if you were one ethnic group in Selma, it was Danish. And this was a Danish town, and Kingsburg was more Swedish. But when I was growing up, all of these houses around me were all, the Fanukis were Italian. We had two Japanese families. We had a Dutch family. We had a person from India, a person from Mexico, and two Armenian families. It was really a natural diversity, and they were all small.
Much more homogenous, huh?
Yeah, there's no such thing as diversity, but it's all corporate. So when I walk every night,
I'm not sure
and
what
it's
I
funny,
did.
on my property.
I guess I'm in trouble with YouTube. I gotta restart. They detected some sort of copyright notice. I'll be back.